between two buoys, virtual sailing. We're between two buoys, you know we lost our yacht. We're between two buoys, in a Zoom meeting. We're between two buoys, virtual sailing. We're between two buoys, you know we lost our yacht. We're between two buoys, in a Zoom meeting. We're between two buoys, virtual sailing. We're between two buoys, you know we lost our yacht. We're between two buoys, in a Zoom meeting. We're between two buoys, virtual sailing. We're between two buoys, you know we lost our yacht. We're between two buoys, in a Zoom meeting. We're between two buoys, virtual sailing. We're between two buoys, you know we lost our yacht.
All right, everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Between Two Buoys, the LMSS pandemic talk show, bringing some sailing and some laughter and some stories from some of the top sailing celebrities out there. We've got our co-host Alec McKee with us tonight. How you doing, Alec?
Doing well. How about you, Sam?
Doing well. We got our special guest, Dan Morris. How you doing tonight, Dan?
I'm doing great. It's good to be back in Minnesota.
Awesome. Before we dive into it, we got a couple of just quick updates from the sailing school. First of all, LMSS is fully up and open for business. We got some great news from Governor Walz this week. We're slowly inching closer to the reality of being out on the water, which is great. And just want to remind everybody, if you are thinking about joining the school this summer, to get out there, sign up, and be ready to rock and roll. Because when we get the full green light, we're going to be ready to go. And again, we're inching closer and closer. The team has just been working super hard at LMSS to make sure that the staff is going to be safe, the students are going to be safe. We're going to have all the protocols in place to make sure that we're going to be, fully compliant with anything that needs to be done to make sure everybody's got a good experience. So get out in the water. There's probably no better place to be than out in the water, being on sailboats during this whole deal. So get signed up today. So with no other words there, special guest Dan Morris. Dan Morris is an LMSS alum, worked his way up through the Lake Minnetonka Sailing School, has been a member on a number of high-end Grand Prix racing programs, and he's currently a member of the New York Yacht Club American Magic America's Cup team. And all the way from their training camp in Pensacola, Florida, Dan is with us here today, and we're really excited to have you, Dan. How's it going?
Oh, it's going well. It's an honor to be here. So, thanks for having me. And just, it's fun to kind of have a connection back to Minnesota. I don't get back very often, but it's certainly a special place in my heart, and it's where I got my start with all you guys. So happy.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thanks for carving out the time. And I know we got a lot of young sailors watching tonight, and they'll have some questions for you at the end. And I apologize for my background. We had a little studio change tonight. We got a low budget for Between Two Buoys. We got kicked out of our other studio. We couldn't pay the rent, so we had to scramble at the last minute. And this is what we could come up with, so I apologize. But as we do with all our guests on the show, we can't really go sailing right now. We're pretty excited to get going sailing, but we're going to pretend like we're going sailing. And one thing all sailors do before they get out in the water is put their sunscreen on. And Demo, you probably know better than anybody, every sailor has got their own routine. They've got the type of sunscreen they use. They've got, do they apply it with both hands? I watched Taylor Canfield on this episode a couple weeks ago. The guy just lathers it up all over his hands. It's like, dude, you can't hold a rope when you do that. So
Right.
Yeah, he
No
doesn't have to
restraint
hold any
there.
ropes. If you got
So-
Taylor holding a rope, you're probably doing it wrong. You should probably be on the wheel, maybe flying the boat, but not on a sheet.
Right, exactly. So why don't you've reached the pinnacle of the sport, all the way from LMSS, which I just think is awesome, and I'm really excited to hear your story tonight. And I've gotten to watch you up close and kind of have my own opinions of why you've made it as far as you have. But we're really looking forward to just understanding the story tonight. But before you do it, show us how an America's Cup sailor puts on his sunscreen. Let's see it.
Yeah, well, I like the invisible zinc. So I get this stuff from the chemist in Sydney. You can't quite see it, but it's invisible zinc, which is good because then you can you can put it on thick and nobody sees it. They don't see that you're wearing it. So you just like that. And I don't put it on my beard. That's why I have the beard. And we usually wear a helmet, so I don't put it on my forehead. But it's great. You can't even tell I'm wearing this stuff. So that's what I do. But I'm very careful just to get it on my fingertips.
Right.
I can't have it anywhere else in my hands. It absolutely breaks me. And then whatever's left over, I rub it off on my leg or somewhere. But just can't handle the grease on my fingers. So
I agree. Awesome.
Yeah,
So one debate we've had on this show. So you get it on the lips as well. I like that.
Yeah.
But does the beard provide you with the UV protection?
So I shaved my beard for the first time since high school, basically, like 2 weeks ago. And went outside, didn't wear sunscreen where my beard normally is because I just never have. And I got the worst sunburn. So it definitely protects you. And I'm probably not going to shave again for at least 20 years. So
that's 2 weeks of growth right there.
Yeah.
That's impressive. I could try to go for probably about 3 years and it wouldn't look anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's part brown bear, black bear from Minnesota, maybe. Who knows?
Right. Well, I think another fun fact is that you actually coached Alec at some point. Is that right, Alec?
This is true. Back in the day, I think it was 420 race team. So Demo didn't mess around in those days. It was all business. So we got it done. Do you remember anything of those early days, Dan?
Oh, I think maybe sometimes I pushed a little too hard. I tried to get us on the water for a few too many hours. And, I think some of the other coaches, I would write lesson plans because Gordy always wrote lesson plans. And so I just wanted to be like Gordy. And the other coaches were like, what are you doing? Just take it easy. Just enjoy life a little bit. It's like, no, if Gordy writes lesson plans, I got to do it too.
Right.
Right. Well, I'm sticking with the banana boat tonight. This is pretty good for me. Like I said, I usually find what's at the bottom of my kid's swim bag, but I'm the same way as Demo. I just go one finger, start at the nose, work the eyes, get up here nice and high, get behind the ears, and just try to get that nice rubbed in application there. Definitely hit the back of the neck as well, because that's a key area. And well, my lights just shut off.
Woo. Now it's a show.
Yeah. Gonna get my hat
There you
on,
go.
my sunglasses, and I'm good to
There
go.
you go.
What do you got, Alec?
I hate to say it, but I think I'm light years ahead of you guys because I've got this stick here, and my hands don't get any grease on them.
Oh,
Which means there's zero slip. Zero slip, you guys. I'm telling you, this might be the way of the future here. I'm no pro sailor, but just speculating.
awesome.
Innovation.
Okay, so Demo, you grew up in Minnesota. We're famous for our Minnesota accents. It doesn't take much to hear that your accent. You got a special accent. Is it you're hanging around Kiwis? You're hanging out around Australia. You're from Minnesota.
When I listen to my accent, I think it's the same. I don't, it's exactly like it was, at least in my head and my ears, as when I was, 14, 15.
Yeah.
And so when I travel the world now and people are asking me where I'm from and they might be a bit confused by my accent and everything else, that, I'll tell them I'm from Minnesota. And they'll ask if that's a Minnesota accent. And I said, sure is, absolutely. And so people around the world are starting to think that this is proper Minnesota accent. So.
All right, well, let's hear one of your good Kiwi accents. Maybe just give us a phrase in Kiwi. Talk about it.
There's the old beach days brew. You've seen the whale that's beached on the shore, right? And he's all heaps beached on beach days. Wouldn't happen to have a bucket or a hose, would you? But I'm going to be in some trouble with the Kiwi boys now. So
yeah, exactly.
I'll expect some hazing later tonight, probably.
Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah. It's certainly, that's the fun part about sailing is, you get to be so exposed to so many different cultures and get to go and see the world and pick up so many different little pieces. And I'm sure, yeah. What if you had to pick like a favorite venue that you've sailed at, what would that be?
It's hard to choose, I'd say Marstrand in Sweden in the middle of summer. That's pretty great. And Portugal has some great sailing, and most places in the Med, like Palma, excellent. But I think the special thing is, all of your friends that you sail with and sail against that you see at all these different venues around the world. That's the cool part. You have a community that sort of travels with you, and
right
anywhere you go, like if you race sailboats, anywhere you go in the world, you probably have a friend.
Right.
That's pretty neat.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
So one thing I think that's pretty cool about you, Demo, I'm a Minnetonka guy through and through, bleed skippers you're from Edina. That's where you're born and raised, Edina, Minnesota. And that's amazing to me of how you got to where you are being from Edina. So like, how did you overcome that, adversity of being a cake eater growing up?
Yeah. Well, it was good for hockey, that's for sure. But
it was.
But for sailing, it was different. And one thing I know is that Edina girls hockey, they are good. They're next level, especially at the younger ages. So
yeah.
But I digress. Yeah, it was funny because I grew up as a little kid, spending a lot of time on the boat with my dad, and basically living on it for the summers. And then as a teenager, I got introduced to LMSS, and Gordy Bowers was kind of like paramount in that. He sort of just took me under his wing and brought me in. And so I think, from moving from Edina and then getting into LMSS and getting that coaching and that sort of that attention and those opportunities, I think that's what it was. And so I've been fortunate. I can sort of track a few key names, but really there's a lot of guys and girls in the sport that have given me opportunities and given me their time and their energy. And that's what I used to get to where I am. So like Gordy was kind of that first one. And, then I went to California, and there's a guy, Scott Easom, that he taught me a whole heap of things and, gave me more values and, helped me kind of build a character and a set of values and morals and skills. And as I kept traveling and sailing, there were just more and more people that kind of took me under their wing. And before you know it, you're 32 years old and you still look up to some of these great guys, but you're like, oh, I guess I'm an adult now. But you still have mentors, and you still have people that you look up to.
Right.
That's pretty cool. And I'm hearing this theme of Gordy Bowers, and I think, as one of the directors of the Lake Minnetonka Sailing School, I know that there's a lot of people that look up to Gordy. And I guess I'd be curious, kind of, what do you most admire about Gordy, or why do you feel like early on in your career you were so kind of sort of just drawn to him in that way?
Well, so I guess if you go way back, when I was a little kid, my dad would tell me stories about this guy that one time he was in the same race as Gordy, and it was some random race, and a mix of boats. It wasn't like a one design East Scow event. It was just a random race. But there was one guy that just had such good boat speed through a whole mix of conditions, when it was windy, when it was light, when it was freaky and shifty. And he chalked it up to just having a better understanding of how sails worked. And that all came down to this guy, Gordy Bowers, who was such a great trimmer and sail maker and all these things. And I never knew Gordy. I just knew the name because I'd heard that story over and over and over. And then my dad died when I was a teenager. And like 4 days after my dad died, I had to get my sailing instructor certification at NYC on the island, and happened to be sitting next to Gordy. I saw some older dude that, looked pretty salty, and pretty experienced, but I didn't know who, I didn't know who he was. And then we all introduced ourselves to each other, and heard his name. It was like, whoa, like that's the guy that my dad always talked about. But it was like 3 days after my dad died, right? So I was a bit confused and just like, just keep moving forward, because what else do you do? And
Right.
during that like certification course over 2 or 3 days, Gordy and I just kind of hit it off and got to be buddies. And and then I went away for the rest of the summer, and in September he gave me a phone call and was like, I want you to do high school sailing with us, and I want you to come coach Opties next summer. And if he hadn't reached out to me, like that one little detail might have changed everything. So I'm pretty thankful for that.
That's awesome. That's a really cool story.
Yeah. It's
And
unreal.
how old were you?
I was 16. I just got my driver's license. Yeah.
Wow.
So.
And when you really got into racing, what age were you when you really started to get in the racing bug?
Oh, well, I wanted to be a professional jib trimmer when I was 7 years old. And for me, somehow it was always about being a trimmer. I don't know why. Maybe I got it from my dad, or, I'm not sure, but it was like, that was my niche, and that's what everything was about. And I sailed big boats, and I went racing on Lake Superior with a guy named George Johns and like some of the dudes up there. And, it's a different scene from Minnetonka, but it's, 40-foot boats. And I started racing with them. I don't know, I would have been 10 years old. But I didn't have a small boat. I didn't have an X boat. And
right.
My dad talked about how cool it would be, but like we couldn't afford an X boat. So I just never sailed them. But then did a little sailing at Lake Calhoun when I was like probably 7th or 8th grade. And then the next year was in with Gordy. And, so in some ways I got like a late start to dinghy racing, but in other ways, I was on boats from the beginning. And so I think I sort of got like seamanship from my dad, and maybe some values and some morals from my dad. And then when I was 16, then I just had like full-time private coaching effectively from Gordy. And that was the boat handling and boat speed and everything else. Yeah, that was like the foundation. That's where it started.
Yeah. Well, we had Federico Michetti on last week, and he had an interesting story. I had super passionate about the sport, but he really didn't get cranked up in sailing until he was about 18 years old, when he got his license and could drive to the water each weekend. Yeah. And I think we get so specialized in sports now that if you're not already a rock star by 9 years old, then maybe the sport's not for you. And it's really cool to see with sailing of, you can apply yourself at 16, 18, 25 years old and still be very, very good in the sport. I mean, I've seen it personally where I had some friends that, maybe were just kind of so-so in the beginning. And then by the time they get to 25 or even 30, they're really good sailors now. And yeah, it's just a testament to, if you love it and keep working hard at it, there's no limit to what you can do. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a cool thing that I notice out of sailors from the Midwest, like sailors from Minnesota, especially, because they're just a notch above Wisconsin, and other states in the ILYA. But I think because we have such a short season, outside of ice boating and some other things, and recently travel is easier, or like up until recently. But with a short season, you have to make the most of it, right? So any day in the summer that there's breeze, you've got to be there. And you're itchy. You see that attitude in the coaches and the guys that sail e-scows and all the club racing, and you see that attitude carry down right into the Opti sailors that are 7 years old and doing their first regattas. Like, they love it, and they know that they only get to do it for 3 or 4 months, and so they just sort of attack the season.
Right.
And you look at some other places where maybe sailing's accessible in terms of weather, it's accessible year round, and so it's like, oh, we don't sail today, like we'll sail tomorrow or the next day. And so I think it kind of like breeds a sense of urgency in like Minnesota sailors.
Right. I like that. So you're fully hunkered down in Pensacola right now. The program, is a little, I don't want to say on hold, but you guys are maybe not training as hard as you once were when everything was pre-COVID. So Tell us about your day a little bit today. I was talking to you earlier. You said the breeze didn't come in. So just walk us through your day of a pro sailor right now. What does that look like?
Yeah.
America's Cup sailor, what does that look like?
Well, like you said, we can't sail the big boat right now. She's all packed up, and we're waiting for when we get to go ahead to start that operation again. And, you know, we're in Florida, so the rules are a little bit different than Minnesota at the moment. So we are allowed to be on the water on small boats. And so I'm really fortunate to have a little moth kind of in my backyard that I can go sail and still be responsible socially. But today there's no breeze. It was just hot, humid, no wind all day. And so my day was 2 gym sessions and a fair bit of eating, and then a couple of phone calls, some more eating probably. And then I spent a lot of time just going through video and photos of the way we set up our sails on the race boat. And so we've got, just logs of that. And, at the end of it all on the big boat, we will have built 29 head sails.
29 head sails.
Yeah. So that's pretty neat. That's
And
a lot of sails to look at.
That's
Wow,
a head
yeah.
sail for what? Every type of condition, or you eventually will narrow that down to what? 4 or 5 for the eventual event, or how does that work?
Yeah, well, you'll narrow it down to different codes of sails. So you have a code 0 for super light air, and you'll have just a range of sails all the way down to whatever you decide your smallest jib is for heavy weather sailing. And what sizing and shapes you do, that's kind of up to the team. And so you just have a range of sizes, and then you build a few versions of each size. And the idea is that each version gets better and better and better, so that by the end we've got hopefully the best head sails of all the teams. And then it just comes down to racing properly.
Right.
Like an average day, a day that we go sailing, you use the sails that match the conditions, and then you come in and you and myself and the other trimmer and actually all the team will talk about what worked well with those sails, but then we'll also look at what we want to change. And so some of those changes might be how we're going to design the next sail to be better, but other changes are things that will go in the loft and we'll do that night so that they're ready to go the next morning at whether it's 6 a.m. or 8 a.m. Sail makers they're top notch, and they work all night to make sure that the changes get made.
Right.
You change battens, or you change luff curve, or you do little recuts, and change the way halyards and sheets attach. It's pretty neat.
You're just looking for any little incremental gain every single day.
Yeah, every day.
Wow.
So that's a good day on the water for me, is a day that you learn something, and
Right.
that should be every day. But
Yeah.
The more you learn, the better the day was. And
Right.
we can't be on the water, so we still try to make sure that we're still learning and still improving, the boat and the technology every day, even if we can't be out physically practicing.
Got it. I'm going to try to get some technology going here. I want to get your take on this one clip. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it, but I'm not going to be able to share it. But there's a famous scene of you guys pitch polling, and I know that you had some potential injuries from that. But these boats I'm really looking forward to watching the America's Cup and knowing that we've got an LMSS sailor on board. We're gonna have to send you some gear maybe and like hide it on the team uni or something like that, and watch it on TV. That would be pretty cool.
Slap the LMSS sticker on the hull there.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, I think Terry would be fine with that, don't you?
Yeah. Well, the big question is whether you ask for forgiveness or permission, right?
Right.
Exactly.
That's another discussion, isn't it?
We're going to dive into, your top 5 tips in a second for, I think one thing that's really stood out to me, Demo, watching you progress through the Grand Prix sailing circuit is just your ability to just grind it out harder than anybody. And, like your comment of, even on a day like today, you're out just looking at photos of sails. And for some people, they can be like, well, how long can you look at photos of sails? But that's where you just got to, again, look at for any little incremental gain that you can. And I remember when you were in San Francisco working for Scott Easom, and I was asking you what you were doing one day, and you're like, oh, I'm sitting at home looking at pictures of sails right now. And it just seems like you're always looking at pictures of sails, which as a trimmer, you live and breathe it, which is really cool. So Before we dive into your top 5 tips, you know, you've had some amazing coaches from Gordy Bowers and on some of these other teams. What's it like having James Line as your coach? I mean, what does he bring to the table that's so special?
Oh, well, it starts with a lot of experience, right? And over a broad range of things. You know, he's coached 72s and TP52s and Olympic classes, and he's had a successful racing career as well. So, you know, just kind of a good balance of experience and kind of a broad brush approach. And that sort of brings everybody together after a day on the water. You know, he's able to sort of collect everybody's ideas and sort of all of their feedback. And then he's also able to kind of dial in and focus on some more detailed bits. And so, you know, really he's facilitating the gain in knowledge. You know, so it's not that he wouldn't tell you that he has all the answers. He's just there to kind of create a pathway to get the answers.
Right.
Sure.
Which is pretty neat, you know?
Yeah.
And
well, sorry, go ahead.
Just, you know, a guy like that, just no ego, you know? He doesn't have anything to prove, and he's not there saying that like because he's the coach, he's the big man or anything. He's just there because he loves it. Honestly, he loves it as much as we love it. And so he's just trying to learn from it as well and trying to find that path.
Yeah, well, I think that speaks to you guys and the special group of people you have in a room. When you get people, hardworking, talented people in a room, you just gotta, like you said, facilitate it. So that's pretty cool. All right, so let's get into your top 5 tips. I know we got a lot of young sailors in here that are saying, hey, how do I make it to the America's Cup one day? So you and I chatted a little bit, but let's go over your top 5 tips for earning your spot on a high quality team. And that can be the America's Cup. That can be your high school team. That can be a college team. That can be a, gosh, what is even out there in terms of J70 team, a Melgus 20 team. Yeah. What are your top 5 tips for earning your spot on a high quality team?
So I guess what I think the most important thing, and like we just talked about James Line, and the first thing that I said of his strengths was his experience, right? And I think there's no trade-off for experience, but the only way to get it is to go sailing and to be on the water. And so my top thing, and this is my foundation, is that I took every opportunity I could ever find to go sailing. And if somebody asked me to go sailing, I was there 100%, unless I was already committed to go sailing somewhere else.
Right.
You know, maybe when you're older and, you know, you won a few, you know, 5 or 6 America's Cups and you've done a couple of Volvos, you might be a little bit more choosy because maybe you've got a family to tend to as well. But when you're young, you just go sailing every chance you get. And if you have choices, then you choose. This is kind of merging into the second step. You have a choice with who you sail with. You choose the best team you can find. You sail with the best people. And if you surround yourself by good people, then you're going to grow and learn faster. So, you know, it's like I got kind of sucked in by Gordy and that whole kind of tribe of young sailors that he had going at LMSS, you know, and that just helped me grow rapidly. And then everywhere I went, I just looked for the best guys and the best teams and just tried to go sailing with them. And
awesome.
So once you get the offer to go sailing and you show up, I think you've got to under promise and over deliver. And that might have been one. I either got that from you or I got that from Harry Melgus, maybe Andy Burdick, one of you 3 Melgus boys. But
right,
you know, but that was a big one, and that really, first time I heard one of you guys say it sunk in immediately. That you know, if you walk around with your chest puffed out and you talk a big game about what you can provide and what you can deliver and how great you are, and then you make a mistake, it's like, whoa, well, you know. But if you just have a solid attitude and you know that you're going to work hard and you know that you're going to work harder than anybody, and then you might, you go out and do some things really well, and you weren't selling, you weren't hyping anything up. You just knew that you were going to show up and work. Then, it works out really well. And then the team is thrilled with your attitude and your work ethic, and and the team probably had a good day, so they're happy with everybody that's on the boat. You don't see crew changes when a team's doing well.
Right.
just put in.
Yeah.
And, and there's no, you do the best job you can do, whether you've got the job you want, it's the dream job and you have responsibility and
Emo, you there? Pensacola internet, has it gone down?
Right. Wondering if we lost him for a sec here. We've got a really nice angle though on this invisible zinc here. I think it was really
The ironic thing about the invisible zinc is it's not invisible.
I was curious, maybe it makes the boat invisible, maybe when you wear it, the boat's invisible and then you can just sail right around your competitors,
Right. Yeah.
Part of the idea. Yeah.
Well, hopefully, we lost Demo. Hopefully he'll be able to pull it back in here pretty quickly. Alec, I was going to maybe say if you can pull up that American Magic pitch poll, because it says my screen sharing was disabled by the host and you're the host.
Ooh, all right.
Do a Google American Magic pitch poll and see what you come up with.
All right. On the fly here, American Magic pitch poll. Let's see. I think I got it. I'm just testing this real quick. And this is in oh, wow, that's wild. All right. You get my reaction first before the viewers get to see it. You get to hear my reaction to it.
Demo's back on.
Nice.
Demo. Hey, we got you on mute. There we go.
Just passed the internet quota for the day down here in Florida. They only give you 1 gig a day. So I got to
go put a quarter in the machine.
Oh, geez.
But yeah, sorry about that.
Uh-oh, we're still spotty.
But yeah,
Are you there?
I'm here.
All right, there we go. That's better. Well,
we'll show this pitch poll video, but Dan, looks like you're frozen again. Feel free just to call in on your phone and we can just talk. There's this little number that you can click, but I'm gonna pull this up here real quick for our viewers. All right, here we go. American Magic's mule goes face first.
So this is the training boat, and Dan is on this boat, and he kind of gets pounded into the mast here shortly.
Oh boy. That is, we're gonna get a front row look. That's him right there.
Right, that's Dan going into the mast right there, which is pretty crazy.
Oh my gosh, that's brutal.
Yeah. Demo, are you there, Demo?
I think so. I can hear you.
All right.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's all right. We just showed we just showed your pitch poll video. Sounds like you had a little internal bleeding after that. Is that right?
Yeah, but just for 3 or 4 days. So yeah, it's
big deal.
You're a Minnesota hockey.
Right.
You're a Minnesota hockey player. You can shake it off.
Yeah, exactly. That's what sailing is nowadays on the floating boats. It's just a combination of ice boating and ice hockey.
Right.
Pretty good.
Well, that's what's cool about some of the ice boating that we do, that we just naturally learn here, is things like dealing with like apparent wind, that's kind of the whole game, isn't it?
Yeah, that's everything.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I think that's why you look at sailors from the Midwest and why they're so special and why they're able to do what you're doing right now and do what a lot of Midwest sailors before you have done, because we just have such a wide range of the type of sailing we're doing, from e-scows down to X-boats to ice boating and everything else. So, So picking up where we left off, you were mentioning, the last one you were talking about was the under promising and over delivering. What was number 4 on your list?
Yeah. So number 4 would be if there's a better way to do something, that's the way we do it. Can you hear me still? We got a good connection?
Oh yeah.
But explain that a
nice.
little bit.
Yeah. So, it's easy. Maybe you're alone in the boat park at the end of the day and you're doing some jobs that aren't that much fun. Maybe you're cleaning the bilge, or maybe you're packing kites, or, you're doing something that maybe you don't enjoy, but you still do it the very best way possible. And so I think that sort of rule, or that tip, it kind of guides you through any of the moments that are questionable. So, if you're racing and it's a super heated, high pressure moment, and you could do it one way, or maybe you could do it another way that maybe somebody's asking for, or, you just take the ego out of it and you just do it the very best way there is. And doesn't mean there won't be a better way later, but if you do it the best way that every time, then there's no doubt, there's no question. So
Looks like we got Ian that jumped us in. Ian looks like he's on a 420 out on Lake Minnetonka right now, which is pretty cool. How's it going, Ian?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing
Are
well.
you on a 420 right now?
What's that?
Are you on a 420 on the lake?
I'm on a 420.
That is so
cool.
awesome. That makes me jealous looking at that right now. Ian, we're going to come into some rapid fire questions from the high school team from you, but Demo, what's your final top 5 tip for making it on a top end program?
Final 5 is you got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So, you listen more than you talk, and you listen carefully. And usually the loudest guy in the room is not the smartest. And it's funny how you'll see this on really good teams with a lot of people, that the guy that speaks quietly and maybe doesn't speak that often is probably pretty switched on. And you'll notice that everyone will get quiet and listen when he speaks, and he probably speaks softly.
I like that a lot.
When he does speak, probably valuable. So, likewise, you don't make the loudest voice in the room and have an opinion that you voice on everything. You're always thinking and you're always listening, but you pick your moments to speak.
I got to remember that because I'm pretty darn loud, and maybe I need to listen a little bit more sometimes. No, that's really good stuff, Demo. And like I said, it's been really fun to watch you I would just use the term grind it, I remember watching you just, continue to improve, continue to get better. And I remember what I think was so cool is that I remember you coming so close on so many things, and something would happen, like you were so close to your dream of the Volvo Ocean Race, and something happened with the age limit and you didn't get to do it. But you didn't pack it in and, just say, hey, I'm going to do something else. You kept grinding and you kept at it and you kept improving and kept looking at the sail photos and going to the gym twice a day. And, now here you are. And I have a feeling you're not going to just stop at this one either. So, we're really proud of you, and continue to represent us well. It's been fun to follow your journey.
Well, thanks for that, Sam. I appreciate it.
We'll fire away. Alec, did you get any questions from online here?
Yeah, so I've seen a couple comments come in. I just wanted to tell our audience, if you have questions, please post them to our feed here. We'll keep watching that. We do have one comment from Nathan Olmstead, who's a Minnetonka alumnus, and he says the pavement pitch pole is better. I'm not sure what he means by that. Does that mean anything to you, Dan?
Yeah, I was pretty fortunate to get to go do the super foiler, which it only happened 1 year. Hopefully it makes a rebound and comes back. But
those boats look insane.
They were the coolest boats ever. Right? Like 21, 22 feet, 3 guys on the trapeze and foiling. It was loose. But we were pretty proud going into the sort of penultimate event of that series. And because we were the only team that hadn't capsized yet. And like pretty breezy in Bustleton down in Australia, and it's flat water, but it was breezy, and we're doing like 39 knots, and then the rudder came out just like in that other crash, and then we were straight down the mine. But you're on the trapeze, so when that rig flicks forward, you just get thrown. And we ended up, I don't know, probably 80 feet in front of the boat. So
Wow.
just hit the water and skipped twice before we sunk in,
Oh my
like
gosh.
a pebble.
That's
I think I
wild.
remember seeing that. Thanks, Nathan, for the question. Any other questions come across the screen there, Alec?
Well, somebody's asking, is that a Minnesota accent, Dan? And I think Dan covered this pretty well, but I appreciate Jeff Eklund bringing it up again. So,
All right,
you
there
know,
you
Jeff,
go.
we're not
Through and
sure.
through.
He says yes. So, yeah.
Jeff's,
Pure Minnesota accent.
Jeff's down in Florida, legendary Lake Minnetonka sailor. So one thing we do that's kind of fun with all of our guests on the show is Ian will do some rapid fire questions from the high school team. So can't think about these too much. You just got to give us your best impulse answer right away. Okay.
All right. All right.
Ian, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, fire away.
Right on. First off, I just want to say, Dan, it's been a really long time, but it's
Yeah.
really good to see you on camera, and I hope I can see you in person sometime
Yeah, I
soon.
hope so too. Be good to catch up. It's been
Yeah,
years.
absolutely. Anyways, exactly like Sam said, I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire questions.
All right.
All right, so we're going to start off with kind of a toughie. What is your favorite color?
Windward Passage green, which is actually blue, but yeah,
Very
Okay.
it's like a
specific.
light blue.
Beautiful. What is your biggest fear?
Probably getting old or having small hands.
Same.
Who's your favorite author?
Probably Louis L'Amour, who like I bet nobody's heard of, but he used to write westerns and had a lot of like good underdog stories. I don't know, old time.
All right.
Who's your favorite superhero?
Shoot. Scuba Steve. He's a superhero, right?
Do you have any nicknames outside of Demo?
I'll get Dano, or I'm really embarrassed to say this one, but on the American Magic team, it didn't take long for my nickname to become Pumpkin.
Pumpkin.
Yeah.
I
And
can
then,
see that.
You know, I acted like I liked it because you know if you fight a nickname, it's gonna stick forever.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just played along. I was like, yep, sweet, that's a good one. Like I like it. So I would refer to myself as Pumpkin for a little while, hoping that it would go away, but it stuck like
What-
glue. So
What is
there
your
you go.
favorite animal?
Favorite animal would be a wolf. They're pretty rad.
How many pillows do you sleep with?
None usually. I haven't had a pillow in
Really?
years.
None?
Yeah.
No pillow guy.
Yeah, just whatever, you know, a clean towel or you know, jacket. Like whatever clothes you have, you know.
You
Wow.
are a sailor.
Yeah.
Do you like roller coasters?
I haven't been on one since I was maybe like 6 or 7. Well, I think I'd probably enjoy it. Yeah, especially if I could drive. Oh wait, you don't
What's your
drive, do
favorite
you?
sport? What is your favorite sport outside of sailing?
That's like not even a question, is it? Come on.
What was
Ice
that?
hockey.
Ice
Ice hockey.
hockey.
It's gotta be.
Okay. Are you a dog or a cat person?
That's not a question either. It's dogs. But who has a cat?
Okay.
Nah.
All right, I'm getting some Lake Minnetonka chop here. And the mast seems to be rubbing up against the hull. It's making some squeaky noises. But what is a real hero of yours outside of sailing, I guess? Who's a real or inside of sailing, outside of a fake superhero, who's your real life hero?
That Ernest Shackleton was pretty cool. Leading that team going through Antarctica and coming back and not having anybody die. That's pretty cool leadership. So I guess
Sure.
he's my hero.
What is your favorite movie?
Probably Miracle, the
There
Herb
you
Brooks
go.
action.
Nice. All right, we've got a Lake Placid resident on the boat right now, actually. She just gave me a cheer.
All right. Awesome.
And
Nice.
what would be your biggest piece of advice for an aspiring youth sailor?
I would say make sure you enjoy the sailing. Like it should be Like, it might not be fun and games and laughter, but it should be enjoyable every time. And remember that it's a privilege to be on the water, you know? I think if you appreciate it, you're going to get a lot out of it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, Ian. That was really fun. Looks good out there.
And I did just want to
I'm
say,
jealous.
you know, just to continue with Sam's admiration for, you know, everything you've done. I feel the same way. And I've been really stoked to just watch how far you've progressed in this sport. I remember sitting in the sunroom at the Minnetonka Yacht Club years ago, watching you put sponsors on your 29er sail, and, you know, not thinking much of it. You know, I was obviously stoked and thinking, oh, this guy's really going for it. And then to see you on the America's Cup now, it's absolutely incredible. So you're really an inspiration. And, you know, I'm glad we got to chat briefly on virtual video. And I hope to see you soon.
Well, thanks a lot, Ian. I appreciate it, buddy.
Cool. Right, I'm
Awesome.
gonna sign out because I'm kind of loud, but it was good chatting.
Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Ian.
See you soon.
See ya.
All right. Well, Demo, we can't thank you enough for being on here. I'd say for anyone out there, follow the New York Yacht Club American Magic team on Instagram, Facebook, social media. They do an amazing job of posting some really cool daily content from what's going on, and you can probably catch some glimpses of Demo. And yeah, you got a loyal group of followers here, Demo and Lake Minnetonka, and so yeah, I know you don't ever lack motivation, but if you do, just know we're pulling for you and pulling for the team, and yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys crush it down in New Zealand.
Thanks a lot, Sam. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and yeah, when you get back up this way, let us know, and we'll get you back out to the island.
Yeah, sounds good. Bit of e-boat or ice boat or ice hockey, all the above.
You got it.
So good.
Thanks
All right,
again,
buddy.
Demo.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.